Good morning. Now is the time to be paying attention to Bitcoin. Saylor has bought another 11,931 Bitcoin for a measly 786 million. The guy is unstoppable. Bitcoin, it is just above 65,162 this morning. Javier Milei, president of Argentina, is going to allow the use of Bitcoin as a currency. Absolutely insane what is happening with Bitcoin. The Winklevoss twins, they've given Trump 30 Bitcoin, or just over 30 Bitcoin, to end Biden's fear-mongering campaign, hostility towards the glorious orange coin that is Bitcoin. The US Bitcoins, they're still bleeding a little bit. However, we are back. I've got a very special guest today joining us live, Joseph. We're going to dive in to pay attention to Bitcoin. There's this new book coming out. However, before that, we're going to get into the news. Firstly, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Sean.
Mate, it is such a pleasure. I just want to dive straight into one thing that I thought was so amazing. If I can bring it up here. This is Jack Mallers, and one small step for Bitcoin, one giant leap for mankind with Nayib Bukele. What an amazing man, hey. Before we get into any of the news, everything that's going on, what a guy is Jack.
Oh, dude, Mr. Mahler's the baller. I mean, this guy is in and out all over every country. He's flying from El Salvador to make it to the Oslo Freedom Foundation. He's doing 14-hour layovers on the plane. He's killing it with his podcast with his dad. If you haven't checked that out, it's a Monday Mailbag podcast, high signal, low noise. And he's just raw. He's real.
Yeah.
And he's, he's pushing us all forward. So hats off to Jack.
Yeah, 100%. Unfiltered, no BS. He's just such a great guy to be able to have in the space as an advocate, and incredibly smart. And then next thing that's happening is the Winklevoss twins are donating 30.94 Bitcoin worth over $2 million to Donald Trump.
I mean, I think they could have done a little better than that.
Of all people, I'm sure they could. Is there a well, it's starting a precedent, which is good, $2 million paid in Bitcoin, and it gives them good publicity. It's just chump change for them, $1 million each. It's nothing.
It's a token offering. It's, here's a penny from the pond. A couple of good things that came out of that, though. It's Bitcoin. They didn't slough off some ether, and they gave it to Trump, and they are backing it. And he's pushing that Bitcoin narrative out beyond the sort of the edges into the more mainstream. And he's a real horse in a major political race. And these are unprecedented times that we're living in right now.
They sure are. Joseph, I want to get into a rip with yourself and dive into a whole lot of things and your lens of Bitcoin and why we should be paying attention to Bitcoin. Just going to race through the news, what is happening, especially with MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor, I think you got a couple of thoughts around Michael Saylor, but what MicroStrategy have done is they've started the institutional wave of Bitcoin adoption the world over. I don't think we'd be here with the ETS on a global stage and Larry Fink scrambling to accumulate as much Bitcoin under BlackRock if it wasn't for MicroStrategy. But they acquired another 11,931 Bitcoin for $786 million. It's
he's such a goat.
Oh man, it's absolutely insane. 226,000 Bitcoin. I do have a full article on it. It's $15 billion, but couple of things here. Average price of 36,798. Whether it's at 66,000, 65,000, or they're buying it down at the lows at 17,000. They don't care.
And I guess it's Laura.
Yes, forever, and it's going up forever. But what do you think of Michael Saylor as a person, what he's doing, what he's done with MicroStrategy, the speeches that being very often the face of Bitcoin and even bringing Larry Fink into the fold?
Yeah, we'll touch on Fink in a second. Saylor, I mean, here's a GOAT greatest of all time of Bitcoin propagandists who got in it, not early, didn't even like Bitcoin when he started tweeting on Twitter, and then read the books, put in the work, changed his mind, pulled a just a wrecked tech SaaS company out of the gutters, turned them into one of the most profitable. They're edging in, probably getting into the S&P 500 now. He's, he has a million different ways to think about Bitcoin. He's got that systems engineer MIT background. If you haven't checked it out, his course series with Breedlove, it's like an 8-part series.
Fire.
A must listen to. Fire. The audio kind of is not great at that stage in the podcast. The content is phenomenal. And he just continues to expand. And, you can't stop this horse. He wants to win the race. Once he got 1 million of the coins, or 1% of it, when he hit 210,000 or something.
Yeah,
that was a key breakthrough. And the fact that he keeps marching, is a text message to Fink, which is like, hey, you may have all the institutions, you may be racking up proxy Bitcoin in a Coinbase cold storage wallet that you don't hold, but we're taking this on. It's on our company balance sheet, and we're going to blow you out of the water. So I see him run full steam ahead. More power to him.
Yeah, huge respect for what he's done. I think it allowed the TradFi to finally wake up to what all the cypherpunks have been saying for the last 15 years. As soon as he hit that 1%, it's like, oh, we need to start paying attention to this. So what do you think's there on Fink?
Yeah, so credit where credit's due. Fink proselytizing Bitcoin basically trumped everything Michael Saylor has ever done. And I mean that like humbly, out of respect. This guy is the poobah, the top of the castle of all major fund managers in the world. Everyone looks to him for signal. And when he switched to Bitcoin, that was, I would argue, that's even bigger than Trump taking BTC donations. That was the shift of the Overton window. That is the 51% attack on adoption. It basically made every boomer and their major bank account in the world say, oh, I'll get some. And they're just starting to. And, it hasn't even reached the state of, the registered wealth investors, or it's really just at that first tranche of adoption. Yeah. So we're going to see it go through the roof. And I'm excited. I don't mind if people want to buy the ETF. I think it has all kinds of financial advantages. If you're looking to take a loan against it, or you're worried about, some people are getting a little late in the tooth in life and they're worried about how to pass it on. It can be tricky to explain private keys and cold storage wallets. And, if you have it in the ETF, it's just part of your will and last testament to pass it on to your kids and grandkids, or whatever philanthropic organizations you want to support. So I think there's a lot of fluidity in the ETF that gets underrated. And I'm actually mega bullish on it. I personally wouldn't recommend buying it, because you want to hold your own Bitcoin and you want to control it yourself. That's what it means to truly understand the asset. And with that said, if we didn't have this kind of adoption, we would be so far behind. It's like we ran 3 laps on the track, in a single instance. So props to Fink. Credit where credit's due.
Yeah. I would also say don't buy the ETF, hold Bitcoin in self-custody. It's really not easy, and it allows you to be a sovereign individual. I've got a video coming out tomorrow. I'll play a bit of a teaser actually for the video right at the end, a 2-minute intro of why. Yeah, we'll play it live here, of why being sovereign is so important now with what we've seen in the past. Tony from the Bitcoin Way diving into to what happened in Lebanon, sharing his story, but also it's just the highest signal podcast I've ever produced. So anyway, we'll get to that. This is pure high signal here as well. Javier Malay, it's really funny, like mainstream media news and they say how bad Argentina is, but they have cut inflation down. And now what he's saying, there will be a free competition of currencies. So if you want to use Bitcoin, there will be no problems. It's like, isn't it surreal that Bitcoin's here now? We've got Nayib Bukele, Javier Milei, Donald Trump. In Australia, the Van Eck ETF started trading yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations on that. I saw that. I thought about you. I was like, oh, that's so epic. You know, yeah, I mean, Milei is ruthlessly, in a positive way, turning the finance of a tanked economy around. Argentina's been dealing with runaway inflation. Someone had to stop the bleeding, and he's made that effort. And he's, you know, this is one of the more public positions he's taken on Bitcoin. I know previously that they'd made it legal to do contractual, you know, exchanges of value in Bitcoin, but this is sort of him doubling down and saying, you know, we're not going to push this out of the country. I personally spent some time in Argentina this year. It was actually part of my research on the book, and just being down there and seeing how cheap everything was in relation to the dollar was alarming. And it's just so encouraging to see it going the other way. And just being in the kind of in the trenches of Argentina and Buenos Aires and going around the country is like, Bitcoin's very much on the front of everyone's minds. They know what it is. They want to buy it. They are holding it. And
are they already using it?
You know, I think they're using it more of a savings technology. Really, what's happening in terms of commerce is more like stable coins on Tron, or like other forms of stable coins, just because there is a faster transaction rate, and they don't really care about the centralization risk, because they're like, hey, we've had a tough economy that's been centralized for decades. We're just trying to move this money around. So that's a little bit more where it's going. But, you know, I met some really great Bitcoiners down there, and I can certainly attest to the fact that that the ethos around the freedom money is afoot.
Man, I want to dive into the book, actually, but before we do, let's just get ourselves orientated with where we are on the time chain.
Yeah, let's check it out. Well,
man,
said, time chain.
What a block height, 848,800 on the dot, and 888. That's man, Bitcoin. It's just TikTok next block. It's so beautiful. We're pretty much at a clean $65,012 sats per USD. Bloody good deal. 1,538 satoshis. Wow. Units, the world's hardest currency, for only $1. That fiat that you're going to spend on coffee, put it into Bitcoin, probably be better off. Mempool, a little bit clogged up, 220,000 unconfirmed transactions. Hash rate down a little bit, but it's doing nothing. And a couple of miners have obviously dropped off. With this, a little bit, 11 minutes and 34 seconds is the average block time at the moment. Just jumping over.
So interestingly, so if it's taking a little bit long, you know, we're going to see that difficulty adjustment bake in a couple of weeks, and it'll get, you know, if they're doing it too long, it'll get a little easier. And that's what's great about, like, the Bitcoin is an organism. It undulates, it adjusts, it's responsive, adaptive. So we're going to keep hunting that 10-minute medium. And that's what's great about that code.
Isn't it so amazing and like alien almost that it's just running by itself? It's just TikTok next block. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can get in the way. It's this unstoppable, unfathomable source for all good in the world, and nobody can manipulate it. They can't control it. They can't get in the way of it. It's it seems surreal. Like, I feel like we're so lucky, so blessed to have Bitcoin at this time in human history. Before we went live, you're talking about a couple of talking points out of the book with the Fed and the name of that company. But
oh yeah, that's so wild. Well, let me say one thing about it runs itself, because I just want to make sure there's a shout out to, you know, to the node runners out there and the devs, is that it doesn't run itself. You know, we validate it, we verify it, and by we I mean the collective we. I'm not talking about my equipment. I'm more of a researcher. But you know, people, humans, breathing humans, you know, keep it alive by running their computers and putting energy into that ledger so that it can run its autonomous code, which is unbreakable, which is unfathomably well executed. So yeah, just wanted to throw that little nod out there. But let's chat about that other spot.
Yeah, 100%. And just on that note, everyone should be running a node. It's really not hard to be self-sovereign, to be able to protect the Bitcoin network. If you need help, reach out to Tony at the Bitcoin Way. This guy, we'll show you the preview at the end of this video, this podcast dropping tomorrow. The reason why this guy is doing this, allowing people to be free, sovereign individuals. It starts with getting your Bitcoin off the exchange. It's really easy. If you need help, having an air gap wallet, they not do it for you, lead you through so you understand 100% how to do it. Because there's stuff, the proverbial shit hits the fan. You want to be sovereign. You want to be running your own node. They can help you with that. And if you need to escape your tyranny, they can help you get a second citizenship and a more friendly jurisdiction.
Yeah, so the world's a lot of those popping up now, you know, and we're going to see with, like, just to your first point about El Salvador, Argentina, and now the US, it's like if we become a friendly Bitcoin mining state and a friendly state to Bitcoin self-custody, well, we're going to incentivize that. And if it's not us, then another country is going to beat it to us. Maybe Australia jumps in the fold with the interview guy that you had on yesterday. I mean, who knows? And it's up for grabs. The friendliest jurisdictions going to get the coins. So, you know, if you're listening out there, just go ahead and adjust those policies and watch the money roll in. You know?
I doubt it's going to be Australia. We can only hope. We can only pray. I'll jump into a bit of gaslighting from our Prime Minister there. Just their concepts around energy. They're so stuck on solar and winds. Great. Like it's not renewable. It's not green. It's not clean for the environment. It's absolutely horrific.
Hard on a cloudy, windless day.
Yeah, that's that's right. Follow the money and you find the incentives there. And then nuclear, we've got the biggest uranium deposits in the world. We're very energy abundant, and the PSYOP campaign.
Yeah.
Oh, very easily, instantly. Yeah.
Oh, what was that you were saying on your other just a couple shows ago? I was checking it out. You were saying that they had like solar panels, but they were too big to transport. And so they weren't in the right location, and so they were on the coast. Do you remember this?
No, I'm not sure. I wasn't going down that thread, but on that thread, with solar panels, like most of Australia's desert. It's only 100 to maybe 200 kilometers from the coast back that's really habitable, where most people in Australia live. And yes, I'm being very simplistic here, I understand, but a lot of Australia's desert. If they want to go down wind turbines, if they want to go down solar, they don't need to be clearing freaking rainforests to do it. They don't need to, like, if it's clean and green, the best CO2 capturing device in the world are freaking plants, vegetation, trees. Just clearing, bulldozing them to put up these monstrosities.
Oh, it's horrendous.
There's zero reason to do it. If they still want to go through with that agenda, just do it where people aren't living, where it's not going to affect the natural world. Right. It's absolutely absurd. That's my thoughts on it.
Well, hopefully you guys start to use some of that nuclear potential, and get that energy.
It's so political. I don't know. It all comes down to politics. Obviously, having Jordan on yesterday from the Libertarian Party, was dipping his toes into Bitcoin, and good news, he has started looking at cold wallets out there, ladies and gentlemen. So he's starting to pay attention. I think if like what we're seeing is with Trump, for example. Vivek got in Trump's ear, said you need to be pro-Bitcoin. Donald Trump took that up, tested it really, got a huge response.
Yeah, a little
and then it's just starting to like snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it comes down to that adage, you can't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin changes
you. And you get that, he tries it out at that libertarian conference, and you could just see him coming back off stage and then being like, well, that went well.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to reboot that at the next dig, and then put me on another mic, and I'm going to try it again.
Yeah.
If it's working, he'll just keep working it.
Yeah. I just want a huge shout out to everyone that is watching live or watching the replay. If you haven't already, smash the like button, hit subscribe if we vibe. But well done for being here. It's such an amazing time in human history. It's without Bitcoin, I think I'd feel a lot of despair, destitution, disgust with the way the world is before we came live. We're like, we can talk about it, we can look at it, but when you're outside the system, it really doesn't matter. So you've got a book, it's pre-order. I can bring up your X in a moment, but
sure.
What is the book? Pay attention to Bitcoin. What's the thesis behind it? What are some of the things that you dive into? What's the messaging contained within?
Yeah, great question. Nice kind of general ballpark. So yeah, it's called Pay Attention to Bitcoin. I like the title because it's a command and you've learned the entire point of the book when you've read the title.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the book. I'll give you a little more. The idea, well, the book goes through the evolution of money from, seashells to credit cards, and the history of gold. What is the Fed? Why does it matter? Genesis block, history of Satoshi, prophets that foresaw Bitcoin, John Nash, Hayek, Milton, those kind of people, Bucky Fuller. And then it just, but the more philosophical component about the title is just that our focus is what generates value. And attention is sort of an arbiter of value. And that word arbiter, think of like an arbitration. So it's like two sides are sort of deliberating about where the attention should flow. And you can see that how attention decides economies really easily with the sort of the block size wars is a great example. So there was two different camps about the way that Bitcoin should behave. And one of the camps was in a bigger block, the other one wasn't. But where the attention went, the value accrued. And so the original chain prevailed. And then not to go too far out on the let's call it the blockchain curve, but you see an inverse thing that occurred with the Ethereum fork after the DAO wars, which is basically there was two pockets. This guy ripped off the DAO for a bunch of ETH, and the entire attention economy of Ethereum said, we're not going to value that. We're going to value the fork. So instead of going with the original chain, which became ETH Classic, the new Ethereum, now called ETH, is what prevailed. And this isn't about which currency is better per se on ETH or ETH or whatever, but it's an example of about where attention flowed, the energy accrued. And so the thesis is basically, as we accrue our attention around Bitcoin and as we place our value around it, that will create the the exponential effects that will enable it to become a worldwide settlement layer that improves the self-security and and then the power of each person to transact, not just Monday through Friday, and not when not against federal holidays, not when it's after 5 or before 9 a.m., but truly whenever you want to move value and money in this world, anywhere, to anyone, at any time. And that's where I hope we're going to put our attention, and that's why I wrote the book, what it's about.
Yep. And it's not ready yet, but there's a pre-sale or a pre-release.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So it's coming out July 24th. But this is one of those things where in order to sort of have a splash when it comes out, we've got a pre-sale up for the Kindle reader, the Kindle version. I would have done it for paperback too, but they don't allow that on Amazon.
Yeah.
So if you go to payattentiontobitcoin.com, you can pre-order the Kindle, and that just splashes the algo and gives me a little bit of juice. And then, when it comes out, feel free to read it in electronic form, or I'd love it if you wanted to buy a paperback and put it on your shelf.
I'll be getting a signed copy. That's for sure, Joseph.
100.
Yeah. And maybe I'll send you some sats if you can send us a couple of signs, and then we'll do a giveaway and get you back on that. It'd be epic.
I'd be more than happy to. Yeah.
I think, like, aside from Bitcoin, one of my greatest joys in the world is reading, and reading Bitcoin books is the greatest joy. And I believe if people don't read the books, they're going to eat the bugs. I think we are at this stage in human history where if people think, oh, no, I'm too cool for school, I'm not willing to read, it's not for me, or listen to audiobooks or consume Bitcoin content in some way, they're absolutely fucked. If they stay in the fiat system and play stupid games, they're going to win stupid prizes. It's designed to steal, censor, and control. And that's what, like, I dive into this podcast with Tony about. But I truly believe we've got this opportunity in human history right now to be able to get as much hope in our time back. Like, the sooner people get into Bitcoin, they're just gaining more time. So
I was telling you right earlier, Sean, it's like every time I read a Bitcoin book, I buy more Bitcoin. And there's something meditative about having a paperback copy, being off screen, out and about. Maybe you're under a tree and the wind's blowing and you're in front of a lake or the ocean and you're reading a Bitcoin book, and it just gives you, you're a little bit detached from, the electronic world, but you're building your knowledge and you feel that grow. And you read a Bitcoin Standard or read a book by Alex Gladstein or Seb Bunny or, any of these legends out here, and you just grow in conviction, and your capacity to explain it to yourself and therefore teach it to others is enhanced. And then lo and behold, your stacks go up. And then you feel even more secure in it, because one of the reasons stacks dwindle is for lack of conviction, and conviction goes down with lack of education and knowledge. So you up that knowledge, you're going to up your stack, you're going to up your power level. So it's worth putting in that proof of work.
I've always loved that saying, knowledge is power. But when it comes to Bitcoin's energy, money, it's just pure power. So knowledge in the context of reading a Bitcoin book is literally power. It allows you to become powerful in every single way. And I 100% agree, Joseph. It's literally just a lack of knowledge. Like, I'm not sure how long you've put into it. I've probably put in just over 9,000 hours of diving down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, or rabbit holes, in every single way. And you realize that, or I'm trying to find a reason why it won't work, and my convictions just reinforce more and more and more. And like yourself, it's just, you want that Satoshis to go up. And I believe spending in the circular economy, I'm doing that like more and more with things, but the Satoshis need to be going up, not down. And that's only, like, they only go down because people are idiots. They're absolutely stupid, or they haven't put in the work.
You got conviction when you start you're excited when it goes down. I got to a point in my view, you start to view the value set and you're like, oh, sweet, I get like this many more sats on my weekly buy.
Yeah. Can I just jump in really
you jump
really
in anytime. I'm just ping pong, bro, whatever you want.
The only thing I want to add on to that is, like, for example, there's a gentleman, a subscriber, and shout out to him. He had been saving in Bitcoin, accident happened, and that Bitcoin had doubled, but by the time he had gotten in and had that accident, and Bitcoin allowed the bills to be able to be paid. And that's the point of it. Like, number one's our health and our wealth, but wealth is just a tool, but it saved him so much time. He didn't need to go into debt, into destitution for any reason. So when I say, like, never sell Bitcoin, and that example, Bitcoin was used exactly as it should, and then start saving back in Bitcoin again.
And you're hitting it right on the nose. It's not, it's the ethos and the mentality is never sell, because that helps you from having a soft hand just because the market's undulating in some natural tidal effect of sociological consciousness. It's not saying, hey, if you can drastically improve your life or cover this position or move your family forward to actualize some of the energy that's stored in this technology, well, rock and roll, that's what you got it for, level up, and then get right back to stacking. So
I like that, level up and then get right back to stacking. I was just on that point. there. Like this gets me excited. I love the red buy button, whether it's red, whether
it
green.
says 65,000 and it's red. It just blows my mind. I mean, I remember getting so bullish when it was like 32, 33.
Oh man.
And I was like, yes. And now it's 65 and people are like, it's going down. I'm like, you have so lost the plot.
It's all about perspective. Hey, like this is such a good deal, and something that I say on the show all the time, 2, 3, 4 times a week, is it's going to go up $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 in a day, but it's also going to go down that amount of money in a day as well. So if we can like really get used to this red button, smashing it, pushing it, stacking the sats when it's red. Now, psychologically, it gets your mind right that your Bitcoin goes to 150,000, then drops down to 130, 120,000, and you see that big blaring red thing. You're like, fuck, this is a good thing, because you've programmed yourself to realize it's just part of it. Nothing goes up forever. Like straight away, Bitcoin is going up into the right forever when you zoom out. But short term, you get stuff like this, and there's no need to be fearful. It's the most exciting, and that is the place that I feel like we all need to be.
Oh yeah.
And if you can just trick your brain into doing it in whatever way, or just write it down and get used to it. Hey, my portfolio is down this much in fiat, but one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And do I have more Bitcoin today or less?
You know, I switched my portfolio view. I just see it in Bitcoin now. Not to say that that's for everyone. You know, the knowledge is power thing is key for situations like that, because people fold when they don't have an understanding of what they're holding. I mean, that's just classic in any market with any asset. So as you up your conviction level and you consume podcasts like this, and you read more, and you track Bitcoiners with high signal and low noise, then you start to see that red. And it's, you know, it's the opposite of sociological conditioning. Red at stop signs means cease movement, but we're inverting that. And red is the fire. It's like grow, go.
Pay attention.
And green's like chill.
To Bitcoin.
Green's like chill. It's green. It's a green day. Go outside. It's green. You know, you don't
touch
need
some grass.
Touch the green means grass. Red means fire. You know, like go for it. And so that idea that we probably don't need to be stacking heavily when it's ripping up a green candle. And you want to be looking at stacking potential and have some dry powder, you know, if that suits your economy. When it's you know, being perceived as dropping in fiat value.
Yeah. With the dry powder, for me, my conviction where we are right now, just fiat comes in, it gets turned into Bitcoin. But when we are ripping up and the fiat's still coming in, I will be a little bit slower with my stack and wait for it. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter.
It's, you know, 1 and 1 plus a titch, or 1 plus half a titch. Like it's, you're fine to just dumb buy and hold forever. And don't even think about numbers. If you want to play a little bit around the edges, you know, maybe if it's ripping, you lower your DCA and you build up a little bit, deploy it on the next scare. It clearly does drop, you know, orders of 10 to 15% regularly every cycle. So you can wait on that, or you could just, you know, set it and forget it, which is also a really nice strategy.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And really, it's only like 11 days a year that Bitcoin actually moves to the upside.
Oh, is that right? I heard it was low like that. That sounds right.
It's not just 11 days. Like today, we're, I don't know, 0.02%. So that's classed as an up day. But what I'm more referring to is when it really makes those gains, where it has the big step change.
So like the majority of its change over the course of a year consists of 10 to 11 market days. Right.
So that works out to be like 1 day a month, roughly. You know, there's 12 months in a year. If you're DCAing once a week, you know, maybe you hit that day, maybe you don't, but the odds are that you're going to be way better off for it. And if you're to buy on every up day, maybe you get a little bit less, but when you zoom out in 4 years' time, you're like, fuck, who actually cares?
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just the game is, you know, wash your dirty fiat money into a sound hard currency anytime you can within your means without feeling financially over your skis. and you're gonna win. That's
Yeah,
it. Mhm.
100% agree with that. One thing I want to bring up is the Australian VanEck ETF.
Oh yeah. Cool.
So it rose 1% yesterday after trading nearly 100,000 shares. There was a thing in here. I'm sure there's a chart. No, maybe it's in another slide. That's the video I want to show. This is your book. We'll come on. Just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, no hurry.
That's a good one by Lawrence Lepard. But what it was basically Australia is putting in like $500,000 a day. Oh, there we go. Average $550,000 a day has gone into the monochrome asset. What that tells me is people have no freaking idea what is going on. And in Australia, like, we're above $100,000 in Pacific pesos, but it's not until Bitcoin will probably in Australia hit about 150,000 that I think the mainstream media is going to wake up to it and the game theory begins. But, you know, $500,000 a day for an angel, little bit of change, but for the stock
low.
market,
it's way low.
It's tiny.
Inflows are just,
it's done nothing, and that just goes to show how asleep this country is in regards to Bitcoin. So shout out to all the Australians in the chat, the international audience, but the Australians, like, frickin' rock on. You're part of such a small minority of people. The mainstream media, the propaganda, the woke agenda that psyops people into staying in the rat race, being so busy, so distracted. Well done to every single freaking Bitcoiner out there, because you've pulled yourself out of that mind virus, that nonsense, and you get it. But it just goes to show the rest of this country is asleep, but the rest of the world's still asleep. Really, it's starting to happen a little bit more. I think Trump,
you know, and that alarm, your Aussies though, when that alarm clock goes off, having the mechanism in place to take a fire hose of capital through the traditional markets is necessary. So although that may be a small inflow today, the fact that the valve is open, well, that puts you into a place where, you know, when everything heats up, a large amount of financial capital can move through that vessel. So it's still a huge W, just in terms of like the way the chess pieces are moving on the finance board. Yeah,
and I don't mean to shit all over him. Actually, they're an ETF. Like, hold Bitcoin.
I mean,
and
whatever. It's an
ETF.
You can dog them a little bit. But we're happy. I mean, it's like all press is good press. All ETFs are good for Bitcoin. Like, as long as the people that do their homework and start to lift the weights on it know what time it is, like the more the merrier. Let's go.
Yeah, 100%. And to give them a little bit of credit, monochrome does allow in-kind as well. So if you want actual Bitcoin from it, you can do it, and that's on the CBO exchange.
That's legit. That's super legit. We don't have States doesn't have that. You can't pull out. It's only to cash, BTC to cash, cash to BTC. They have to go in and out of fiat.
Yeah, so that gives me a lot of hope. That's a pretty good option. People dive in, they get greedy, number go up, technology, Bitcoin goes up and to the right, forever Laura. They come in with greed, and then they start to read the books. They start to pay attention to Bitcoin.
Get in for the wrong reasons and stay for the right ones. NGU Tech, you know, that's like, and any entrant is a good entrant. I don't really mind if they're there to get rich quick or whatever, because if they start learning, you know, that's when the mind virus takes hold. Yeah,
and it's I use the mind virus a lot in regards to like the programming, the propaganda from ETH XRP, but everything's programming, propaganda. Whatever we're putting in, we're just a machine, a computational machine, garbage in, garbage out, signal in, signal out, and refining and clearing that lens. And of course, like, I went through the Australian school system. It is just pure programming, propaganda, and a whole bad mind virus. And they implanted at such a young age. So some of those things that they implanted will still distort my perception, but it's about becoming aware that that mind virus is there and doing everything I can to be able to pull the parts out that I can see clearly, and that allows us to go deeper within ourselves to be able to continue. Like, you can't just unfuck yourself straight away. They spent 12 years in the traditional school system, implanting you when you're so open and perceptive to new ideas. Like, it'll take a while, but that's okay. Like, all we have is time, and Bitcoin gives that back. So it's like so beautiful. Let's
one other thing on the negative connotation around virus is that the society also has a term for something that we consider really positive, which is, oh, it went viral. That YouTube video went viral. So like there's just two sides to every coin, positive and negative charge in every battery. It's similar with the virus. It's positive to go viral, but if you catch a virus, you might feel sick. So it's all about framing and the way that we perceive the information we're receiving.
Yeah, and I guess if a virus doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
Makes you stronger, right? You build up the antibodies, or whatever the little science is you want to throw at that, but it makes you stronger. It doesn't get you as hard the next time.
Yeah. I got influenza about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago now, and it dropped me for like 10 days. I've probably never been that sick in my entire life. You got a bad
one. You got one of the new cocktail versions.
It was insane. I just spent a lot of time on the beanbag, on my laptop, in the sun, or sleeping, resting, eating steak, drinking spring water. And that wasn't just and mainly eggs and bone broth, but kept everything very simple and just allowed my body to go through it. Went through boxes and boxes of tissues, had a cough for ages.
Totally.
Like, so what? I'm not saying for people don't go to the hospital if you need to.
To each their own. And the body is a self-righting tool, which you witnessed. It may take a little longer to do it the old-fashioned way. Headaches go away. Advil goes faster. Glass of water and some sunlight helps. It depends on how everyone wants to attack the remedy. But I remember that one of the most important things about medicine is the body is a self-righting tool. It wants to get better. So it's always trying to do that.
Yeah. And those like medicines and stuff, they're a cheat. They're a hack. If you need to do it for whatever reason, or your situation or your body can't provide the things you need, sure. Like, medicine has come a long way, and it's done a lot of wonders in the world. Big Pharma hasn't, but just medicine in general is not 100% evil. But if you do that, if you cheat, if you go down that hack, your body's not stronger. Like, the next time it'll be weaker from that. That's just something to think about. But let's you keep staring us away. Let's talk about the book a little bit, because I really cannot wait for it to come out. Pay attention to bitcoin.com. I'll repost this, Joseph, for everyone. You agreed to I won't write and talk, I'll just repost. But you agreed to send me a signed copy. I'll pay for them, and a second signed copy, which we'll give away. And I think we'll do a live show and a podcast as it comes out. But I would like to share this podcast that drops tomorrow with Tony from the Bitcoin Way. It's the whole video is so intense. It's the most intense conversation that I've ever had on my life. The conviction of Tony from the Bitcoin Way, what happened to him in Lebanon, what he saw with his own eyes. This 1 minute 30 is just a little taste, a little teaser of it. But after watching this, I'd just like to get what thoughts fire off in your own mind about your journey in Bitcoin, and just your reaction to this, and we'll see what the audience thinks as well. I just realized, just 2 secs, that probably was not playing the sound
I couldn't hear
for
I
everyone.
wasn't sure if it was only for the audience.
No, let me 2 secs. These things happen. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Things happen. We're all making this up as we go, but I'll bring Tony back
The
up.
whole system is designed to steal, censor, and control. That's it.
What happened in Lebanon?
If you were saving in US dollars, they were illegally converted to a local currency, and that hyperinflated. When good people are forced to do really bad things, with things that you don't hear about in the media, we don't want to live through this because it's coming. This is not isolated to Lebanon. These images, they haunt me at night. It's very hard to relate to a story like this, but you don't want to wait until that happens to believe what I'm telling you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill.
1, secure the money. 2, secure your digital environment. 3, move. It didn't destroy me. On the contrary, it weaponized me as a tool of education to make sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And so my role here, my mission, my objective is to teach and to empower every single human being who wants to help themselves learn how to do it. Because once you understand these skills, you're untouchable. Because your life literally depends on it this time around. It's not just like an optional thing that you have to consider. Million is nothing. Million is like a speed bump. It's funny to say, but it's almost like a cheat code. It's an extremely powerful position to be in, or you are unconfiscatable, extremely powerful, and in the eyes of many that hate you, very dangerous.
What are your thoughts? How do you see, or what are your thoughts in the way that you see Bitcoin from that?
Well, it's a tool that enables you to secure your money digitally and take it anywhere. And I don't know the context from which the gentleman was delivering it, so I can't necessarily speak to the larger thing. But let's go with this assembly of like, perhaps you're in a situation where relocation is necessary or preferable, and moving, internationally, you can't even fly with 10 grand in your backpack. At least with U.S. federal laws, and it's sure as SHIT hard to move a lot of gold around. So certainly you can transfer multiple billions of dollars in 10 minutes on the Bitcoin blockchain, and you can hold it in something that looks like a thumb drive, from the early 2000s. So it's an absolute revolution in transporting wealth and controlling your own destiny. And I think over the next decade or two that we're going to hear wonderful, fantastic stories of the way people could preserve their livelihood and protect their families and their children, and if necessary, exit situations that cause them stress or potential harm, and that Bitcoin was the shield.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's so good now that we have the opportunity and we can put things in place to be able to prepare or plan. Number one, as you're saying, is secure the money. We've got
it's everything.
That tool.
What did they do when they broke in? What was it? First thing they did was get the gold when they knocked Saddam out of Iraq. They just went straight to get the gold. Everyone's trying to get the money. China's vastly acquiring, offloading U.S. debt positions right now and gobbling up as much gold and oil factories as they can around the world, and coal refineries and stuff. They're going after the source. We're getting closer and closer to the source of where value is, and Bitcoin's the bullseye.
Yep. And are you in the States? That's my assumption.
Yeah, I reside in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I love it here. I got family here, and I'm well traveled, and I've lived in lots of different places. This is where I call home.
We absolutely love the States. It's such a beautiful, glorious part of the world. So pretty. Probably Crater Lake in Washington, I believe.
It's great. We've got great
it's
parks.
Absolutely beautiful.
We've got tons
Sequoia.
It's like 5 different countries rolled up into one with 2 big oceans on both sides.
Yeah, it's just amazing, and it's so easy to be able to get around, and it's so diverse, and it just changes in so many ways. But we're there for the first time just after Trump got elected, and it felt a little bit heated. It's pretty interesting. What's the environment like going into this political cycle over there for someone that is on the ground?
Well, I tend to keep a stone's throw away from politics lately. just because, well, for one, I've been more interested in researching for my own pathway to freedom and self-sovereignty. With that said, I can definitely give you a read about, the generic vibe. It's pocketed country, and there's blue states and red states. However, I think we're slowly seeing that they're starting to become orange states and green states. And all that would mean is that like fiat forward states versus Bitcoin forward states. And I think that we're going to see that play out more and more. We already have Bitcoin as a hot button issue between the Democratic nominee and the Republican nominee. And I think that people are saying things like, well, perhaps I would have been predisposed to a more democratic position, but I would really like my money to be protected. And then on the other side, people are in favor of the fact that, with like this DeSantis and Vivek, and RFK, there's a lot of, none of them have a chance to win the presidency this year.
Yeah.
But they're chomping at the heels of what the conversation and the narrative is. And, the guys that are actually going to get, one of them is going to get the chair, are listening. They can't help but to listen to that. So that's really the conversation that's on the table this year. It's unprecedented. It's never really happened before. And, there's a lot of talk about free Ross Ulbricht. And I think that is positive.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't mean to make a political statement, but if Biden wanted to recapitalize on some of his missing demographic for his anti-crypto stance, he is a sitting POTUS and he could free Ross today. I'm not his political strategist, but if I was be like, bro, you're losing that vote, you should probably get some of it back. That would be great. And it would be a win for Bitcoin because who cares who does it? We just want that result.
100%.
And then conversely, Trump has promised to do it in his first near towards the beginning of his office. I don't know if he put a timeline on it, but he committed to it. So that's just great. I mean, we're in the conversation, and to the extent that Bitcoin is in the conversation, I want to be a part of that conversation.
And like spending so much time consuming the orange pill, I'm a little bit removed, I guess, from politics, but how's the everyday person feeling at the moment? Is there a lot of it like anxiety, tension? Like we've got a lot of inflation. You walk into the shopping center, everyone's got their head down. We're not armed up like you necessarily are over there. We're not armed up.
We're armed to the teeth.
Yeah. And does there feel like there's this like underlying tension and things could get pretty crazy, or is it pretty subdued at the moment?
I think, your average person just working on paying the bills and taking care of the family is in a pretty, respectfully, is in a pretty narrow tunnel, I would say, in a fairly like docile state. I don't think that there is a groundswell of anger, or I don't feel any of that or see any of that at the grocery store or anything like that. Yeah, someone might pick up a bottle of ketchup and be like, WTF, or like comment on the price of bread. But it's the frog in the boiling water, where it starts out not boiling and it's just getting a little bit hotter and a little bit hotter. And I don't see that it ever reaching like a precipice or like a point of friction. Notwithstanding social media has a tactic to accentuate, anything that draws eyeballs. So I've heard of these TikTok videos of people going crazy about the price of this or that. I think I've seen some of them like reposted around, but that's not the general sentiment. I think that people they're looking for a solution. And if Bitcoin's on the ballot, people are going to find that their eggs are going down and their bread is going down and their milk is going down and the price of their house is getting cheaper, or the price of the house they want to acquire is getting cheaper. And I'm an optimist, but I really think we're swinging in a good direction. And I think we're poised to see a wonderfully different decade here in the States because of this new ballot item, so to speak.
That fills me with so much joy. I'm so pleased to hear, because everyone there is so armed, and it's nice that we have a solution. People can just jump ship now, and things don't necessarily have to get worse for them to get better in their own lives.
We have a remedy. Should we spend the last like 5-10 knocking out some of these Easter eggs from the book, or do you want to save that for the next one?
No, what I'm going to do is put your full screen, and I'll let you go for a quick rip. I've just got somebody there at the door, but over to you. And if you start dropping them,
it's always that awkward moment where you're like, my co-host is gone, and now it's just me and you. All right, so a couple of Easter eggs came out of this research book. Again, I'm Joseph Vobel. The name of the book is Pay Attention to Bitcoin. I'd love it if you'd cop a pre-order. It's $7. Go to payattentiontobitcoin.com and just click buy order now. It'll pop you over to Amazon. And when it comes out, if you want to read it, give it a review. I'm going to post an audiobook on Audible if that's how you like to consume it, but it's going to take a little longer because I'm going to narrate it, and I'll post it for free on YouTube as well. So this is what Sean and I were talking about before the pod started, which just kind of blew my mind because, you know, and I'm tempted to state it as an homage to a video reference, but I'm not going to do it that way. So Nixon closed the gold window. Does anybody know? Like if I was checking the chat, I'd say, when did Nixon close the gold window? But I'm not reading the chat because it's not my command station. So it was in the 1970s, right? It's actually 1971. And he gave a speech and said that they were going to close temporarily the convertibility of gold, unless otherwise in the best interest of the United States. And the reason they were closing the gold window is because they said speculators were international speculators were attacking the dollar. Little backstory, like the president of France, Charles de Gaulle, was like in, let's see, it was 65. They were fed up with the fact that the US was the only people that they were the worldwide currency, but they, you know, and they had the gold to back it. But then they were issuing more currency than there was gold. So Charles de Gaulle sent a warship over, and they parked outside of New York, and they demanded their gold back from the New York Fed, and they got it. And after that, it was kind of everyone was trying to get their gold back, and the U.S. was like, all right, we got to shut this window. So they closed the gold window in 71. And that's when we unofficially, or for all, you know, sort of like all intents and purposes, we went off the gold standard. But here's a little Easter egg from the book, of which there's, I don't know, like 3 or 4 in the book that I think are really fun, especially if you're, if you love sort of the nuance of the way things happen throughout history. And that is, so we closed it in 71, but it takes a while for things to pass into law. So it was initially supposed to be temporary, and it wasn't, but it actually went through and was signed as a legal document not until 1978. So what's that, 7 years later? And it happened on April 1st. So,
well,
you know, so I call that part of the chapter the day the dollar floated away. And the, you know, the poetic irony is that the legal day the dollar floated away and was officially severed from hard money, gold, was April Fool's Day. So April Fools, your money doesn't have any value.
Oh man, it's they've really pulled off the biggest April Fool's joke trick in human history. Hey,
yeah, of all time. And then it, you know, its claws were so throughout the world system that it was able to continue to be perpetuated. You know, hopefully until now, as we're seeing that, you know, start to shift around. And there's a few other Easter eggs like that, but like, you know, the book is like, it's written with a bit of punch. I put more energy into this book than I did into my master's degree. It took me about 3 years to write it. I started writing in the depths of the bear market, so you get an idea where my conviction was. The majority of it was penned then. You know, bibliography, some of it's behind me. I don't want to throw out like how many articles and footnotes and stuff, because when I hear that from other authors, it feels pretentious. But I really put my heart and soul into it, and I really think
I can't wait.
The community is going to love it. So if you want to pre-order, pay attention to bitcoin.com. Smash the buy now button. Hit me with $7 of fiat. I don't even want the money. It's just energy. Just move it around, and I'm just going to use it to promote the book more and send print copies to people like Sean and others that ask. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll definitely be doing that giveaway as well. And I think we've got something special planned for after the book comes out for everyone. We'll go into a very unique podcast with the book. What a pleasure, Joseph. It's really been a really glorious morning. I just went outside there. What a beautiful day for everyone.
Great.
Bitcoin will just give you your time back, your freedom. It allows you to sleep easy at night. Buy Stack and Chill. I don't care if it's $65, $30, $100,000. This is your life freedom, your life force. It's
That last note
uncontrollable
about
money.
sleeping well. You take control of your finance, and then I'll let you do the exit rip because this is your jam. You take control of your finance. The first time I actually took control of my finance and the money was in my custody and I was sleeping, never slept better in my life. It's the first time you feel like you actually own something that can't be taken from you. It's profound. It sounds like words coming out of my mouth. Try it yourself. Get some Bitcoin, take it into self-custody, see what it feels like. Back to you, Sean.
I think that's a good way there. It's the first time in human history where you can take 100% possession of something and it's truly private, self-sovereign property. If you don't get it, read the books or you're going to eat the bugs. But ladies and gentlemen, all the Bitcoiners out here, you're freaking epic. You're doing the right thing. You're empowering yourself. You're buying your stack and you're chilling. By changing your circumstance, you'll change the world, and ultimately that's where we're all heading, to a glorious bright orange future. We'll see you on the next video. Be blessed. Peace.